Good afternoon and welcome to Business Today. And today we start off on a very strong note, marking an international day. Now, as of 2024, there are 4.1 billion males in the world, representing 50.28% of the world population. Every year, 19th November, the globe marks International Men's Day to celebrate the positive value men bring to the world, their families and communities. In fact, the theme for this year's International Men's Day is Positive Male Role Model. Now, it is rather obvious that this day does not gather much attention. The corporate world is relatively quiet. I don't know if many will receive a gift by the end of today. Let a man dream for a second here. But as we reflect on this pertinent day, Marcus Aurelius writes that waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. And the best way to being one starts in the mind. You are transformed by the renewal of your mind. Now, to bring another quote in, Andrew Carnegie says that the man who acquires the ability to take full possession of his own mind may take possession of anything else to which he is justly entitled. To my fellow men, happy International Men's Day, and I'm mindful of all of you. Now, let's talk jobs, because a man is blessed with job, work, to put their hand to use. Now, the government's appetite for linking Kenyans to jobs abroad is seemingly aggressive, as it has yet again promised Kenyans jobs abroad. This is despite recent reports of exploitation by rogue agencies, trafficking, and now the tourism crisis that has struck Kenyans in Lebanon. The Labour Ministry has announced plans to send 21,000 Kenyans to work abroad, even as the country is paying a hefty price for sending Kenyans abroad. KTN's Esther Diana has this report.
The government is promising to spread the job seekers across 10 countries, and the recruitment set to start in the week will feature 19 counties. The salary range for the successful applicants, the ministry has said, is between 40,000 and 500,000 Kenyan shillings. Critics have questioned the government, which had promised its citizens jobs locally, for resorting to lobbying for jobs outside the country, which has been assumed as an equivalent of brain drain.
We'll start with Machakos County at Machakos Technical Institute for the Blind, followed by Makueni County, Kitui County, Nakuru County, Baringo County, Nyandarua County, Kakamega County, Bungoma County, Vihiga County, Busia County, Turkana, Marsabit, Wajir, etc., etc.
According to the Cabinet Secretary, the jobs with the highest demand for Kenyans in the diaspora are such as housekeeping, housemaids, cleaners, drivers, disc jockeys, nurses, barbers and teachers, mechanics, construction workers, chefs, hostesses, waiters and security, among others.
We're looking at Jordan, United Arab Emirates, Australia, Iraq, Poland, the Czech Republic, the United States, the UK, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, Kuwait, and Germany, just to mention but a few. I have talked to financial institutions, and they will be on the ground, and these financial institutions will give credit to agencies, so the agent has some money, so that you only pay a little bit, 5, 10, 20,000, but the agency has money to process the 90, 100 to 120,000 that you cannot come up with.
The ministry has said it will be working in tandem with financial institutions throughout this process to facilitate job seekers to meet costs in loan when need be.
I'm trying to clean up this system. It has been wrought with corruption, wrought with crooks, to ensure that people come and people are really given an opportunity. My plan is that within the next few months, we hit the 500,000 mark of Kenyans. The entire plan that I presented to the President of the Cabinet is that within a year, we push 1 million people to get employment.
An assessment by the World Bank has shown that Kenya's unemployment rate will worsen in 2024. This is a reflection of the slowdown in business activities and the hiring freezes in the country. This is yet another recruitment exercise coming barely a month after the Qatari recruitment delegation. The cabinet secretary has said that the exercise was successful as it saw 3,000 people recruited and the flag off is set to happen. For KT News, I am Esther Diana in Nairobi.
All right, now 92 students at Rift Valley Institute of Business Studies are beneficiaries of 6.5 billion shilling World Bank funded Sky Scholarship Program known as Strengthening Kenya's Innovation Ecosystem. The program aims at enhancing the innovation systems infrastructure by building the capacity of intermediaries such as incubators, accelerators, and technology boot camps and providers.
Most of the farmers will tend to water the plants, and during that time you will find that the soil has some moisture, so they face issues like overwater and underwatering. Our project here now tries to solve that problem by automating the irrigation process.
We are training people not so that they can go back to school, but so that they can go out there, either be super employees or start their own businesses. And indeed, one of the KPIs for this project was how many do we transition into self-employment. So now we have given them the skills, we have given them we are now going to innovate their businesses, and from there, they are going now to have their own startups.
All right, as Africa experiences robust economic growth and rising wealth, demand for secure, efficient, and flexible travel solutions has surged. Now, this comes in at a very interesting time in regards to the private jet sector, and we're seeing more players coming into this system and tapping into the least tapped sector of the aviation sector, that is private jet services in the country.
Entrepreneurs and corporations, but also our current clients coming from the US, from Asia, from the Middle East, from Europe. It's a hub where people do business. So it's definitely an economic center for our clients. So this is why we're here. We're definitely focusing on areas that are, that have more potential for us, but at the end of the day, we fly to where our clients need to be. So it could be that a client is locally, but we see the outlook as quite promising. There's obviously a huge amount of economic development happening in the region, and we want to be a part of it. And the challenges locally, I mean, it's not specific to Nairobi or Kenya, but I think it's having access to airports. It's making sure that we can get the flight permits done in an efficient manner. So it's really the whole ecosystem of business aviation that needs to be supported. But we are definitely at the forefront of the development of business aviation in the region. We're obviously not the only player, but this is, by definition, I think this is where we need more support, because obviously we're relying on that for efficient operation.
And away from matters of aviation, industry leaders, investors, and stakeholders from Asia, Africa, and Europe are increasingly advocating for sustainable business practices as a key driver of long-term success and economic growth. Speaking during the second CEO Conclave and Investors Dinner hosted by the newly rebranded Africa, Asia, Middle East Chamber of Commerce in Nairobi, the stakeholders highlighted that by embracing sustainability, businesses can mitigate a wide range of risks, from resource depletion to climate change to the pressures of evolving regulations.
Nations tend to come together and open up to one another primarily through travel. And with the aviation sector opening up, with Air Asia now coming to Kenya directly from Kuala Lumpur, it means that we're opening up trade, we're opening up tourism and hospitality, and we're opening up other such opportunities.
The issues that really matter into the economies that we represent.
You have certainly heard about the war in Congo, corruption, poverty, but what you have probably not been told is that for almost a decade, the DRC has been moving toward the path of emergence.
Private investment law in Angola provides certain guarantees to protect investors, particularly in terms of ownership, in terms of capital brought into the country, in terms of facilities, and in terms of investment process.
That franchising is a great tool in the entrepreneur's toolbox, right? So an entrepreneur can use franchising to grow his or her business, which is really significant. But tonight I want to just take this to another level and say, actually, international franchising is a powerful tool in a nation's economic toolbox.
And now, what will usher us into our discussion today, the Council of Governors actually has threatened to shut down county operations in 30 days if Parliament fails to agree on revenue allocation. Despite the Governor's plea asking the National Treasury to release funds, Treasury CS John Buddy has distanced the ministry from the ongoing cash crunch, saying counties have been paid until October 2024. As Winfrey Owino reports, counties are likely to face a huge crisis if the stalemate between Parliament and Council of Governors persist.
County staff are at a risk of going into a broke Christmas season as a cash crunch continues to bite in nearly all counties, with some staff going for more than 3 months without pay. The governors say the country is staring at a crisis in counties if the issue on how much should be given to counties is not solved.
It's holding the country in limbo. It's affecting the flow of funds in counties. And this is why there's a lot of agitation by the public. Because it's this public that we depend on as vendors in the provision of services and goods to government.
The governors also want the national government to clear arrears from the now defunct NHIF program to help them boost SHIF implementation.
How do we continue buying drugs? How can we be able to pay KEMSA if we are still owed 9 billion by the de facto NHIF authority?
Tuna pengine hospitali 48,000 ambazo zistahili kusajiliwa katika mpango mpya wa SHA. Lakini tayari hizo sisi kama county tushaziandikisha, lakini mpango wenyewe haujazichukua na kuziweka katika taratibu zake.
However, Treasury CS John Buddy says Treasury has sent money to the counties up until October 2024.
I'm surprised that such a statement could come from the Council of Governors, because the Council of Governors know the truth. If we were struggling as a country with cash flow issues, there would be nothing making it difficult for me to come out and tell the country that we are facing a cash crunch. But if we are not, then why would I if that was happening, why would I keep quiet? But if we are not, let us not distort information.
In response, he has asked the Council of Governors to sort out their differences with the control of budget for them to access money sent by the Treasury.
From September, October, November, these 3 months, we have released 4 tranches, which are 4 months of July, August, September, and October. So that is the position. And I want to repeat here that up to the end of last week, we have transferred 127 billion. To counties.
This comes months after National Assembly's proposal to slash county budgets by 20 billion from the initial 400 billion shillings was shot down by the Senate. As a result, a mediation process was started by Control of Budget as is required by the law. The process has failed to yield fruits and is still pending. Winfrey Owino, KT News.
All right, Kevin Osido is a governance, devolution and policy expert and also the executive director and governance consultant at County Governance Watch. I mean, listening to the Treasury Cabinet Secretary, he says, I mean, governors, why are you saying you don't have money? because we've given the money. What is the disconnect between what you're saying with COG and what is happening at Treasury?
Thank you so much. No, the disconnect here is mis and distrust. And really the challenge as to why these two arms of government, so rather these two levels of governments, cannot be able to sit together and speak. Why is it that the Council of Governors are making their press release from Delta House, 10th floor, and the CS Treasury is doing the same from Treasury building? There has to be a mechanism through which these government officials can be able to sit. And indeed, those mechanisms are there. For instance, we have the summit, which is chaired by His Excellency the President. We have the IBEC, the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Committee, which is chaired by the Deputy President, which is actually attended by all the governors. The challenge that we see is in delay of execution of recommendations and proposals that have been made. So that, for instance, why this is happening right now is because we have had promissory notes made from the previous financial years that have not been met up to date. So that, for instance, you hear governors talking about 20 billion, and part of that resource is actually in monies which are still held by national government, either through what we call roads maintenance and fuel levy, or even through functions that should have actually been fully devolved to counties. Of course, there are other issues that relate to this, but the challenge is in the inability of our government officials to sit together and agree, so that when they sit with the CS will be able to tell them, but this is what we approved. And then the controller of budget, because there are institutions and mechanisms where the National Treasury can sit together with the controller of budget and also with the Council of Governors, where governors speak from. And then all of them put their facts and figures on the table, and these challenges are addressed, largely from our analysis and point of view, politics being played.
Politics is part of life. I mean, it's the art of sharing resources, so we need to fine-tune that. Talking about the challenge now that comes with withdrawal of the finance bill, that brought in a new conundrum regards to how we're going to divide our revenues. And there we had a bill. For national government, the bill was passed, assented. For county governments, that is still in parliament. Again, is it lack of goodwill, lackluster? Because counties are suffering from a cash crunch rather.
Precisely, no, and it has to be noted that the people who are suffering, as we've heard from the Council of Governors, or the governors of the council, is that it is the employees, county officials, and largely the citizens who depend on counties for services to be delivered. But also remember that even as we talk about issues of the National Assembly and the Senate, we have also not done very well as a country, even despite the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024-2025, insofar as meeting our revenue targets are concerned. Remember that the cost of doing business in mega sectors that drive the economy of Kenya has really gone very high. We also noted, of course, take note of companies, streams of employment and revenue generation that have been closed in our country based on ease of doing business and the context of the economy. We are also talking about the government of Kenya having gone beyond its debt capacity. And we are doing of, I think, negative 12 trillion, which is beyond the capacity that is expected. Part of these are resources that really get scooped from what we are able to generate. But also to note that even as we talk about the debt and all these other issues, we have also not done very well in terms of meeting those targets of revenue, both at county government levels, because we also see in terms of governors and their counties, bringing up revenue targets that relate to what we call on-source revenue, and most of them have not been very deliberate in terms of meeting those targets. At the national government level, of course, KRA is also seemingly struggling, and we keep seeing those reports every day in terms of their targeting for revenue. And so those also contribute to the inability of governments to undertake their responsibilities. But then the question that begs is, why is it working for national government and we don't see complaints like this from national government ministries, departments, and agencies, but it is not working for county governments? That is really where the question is. And remember that the Constitution faithfully dictates that at least 15% of revenue that is collected annually, so the totality of what we raise needs to go to counties, so that even as Mheshimiwa Mbadi is talking about the faithfulness that his ministry has deployed in terms of ensuring that counties have monies up to October. And we thank him for coming to Treasury, because we have seen certain positive aspects being invited and being meted at Treasury. Yes. But then the question is in borrowing up from what is lagging behind. Because even as we talk about 2024-2025 financial year, we also have lapses of monies that should have been disbursed to counties, which is partly why the governors are raising these concerns.
Definitely. I mean, just looking at the numbers, because the council say that they are owed 63.5 billion shillings from October, November, and October-November funds also have to be released. But Treasury came up and said they have released 30.8 billion. Just looking at the number now, the total disbursement they have done so far, even including what was pending for June, that is from the previous financial year, is 158 billion shillings. But how to survive? Because issue of delayed disbursement has first counties year in, year out. What is the solution? Is it pegged on goodwill, or now we have to go big on self-sustainability at the county level with on-source revenue?
Yeah, good question. So those really cement what we must do. Number one is political goodwill and financial fiducious goodwill from national government to be able to disburse these resources. Because remember that even as Mheshimiwa Mbadi talks about the control of budget and issues that relate to that, purely around the green light to be able to spend those resources that come from Treasury, which is small but also a big thing that governors and the Council of Governors and even Treasury can work together with the Office of the Control of Budget. But largely speaking is goodwill from the owners of devolution. So the owners of devolution are Kenyans, but these Kenyans have surrendered this sovereignty to own devolution to a certain select group of people. Now that goodwill needs to begin from His Excellency the President. The President has to be seen to be a lover of devolution and someone who is committed to ensure that in his legacy as the President of Kenya, that devolution has worked, so that we do not see these perennial issues. And as you rightfully said, it is not new. In fact, there's a time in I think it was 2015, 2016, 2021, 2022, when governors actually took the national government to court. And there are many, many recommendations that were made. The second issue that we must do, in addition to political goodwill, is indeed on-source revenue. So counties must also begin to think through how they'll be able to self-sustain, so that this over-reliance on national treasury, even beyond the constitutional expectation of equitable share, but then how can we be able to enhance and strengthen our own revenue streams? And of course, out of the 47 counties, in the last State of Devolution address and in the analysis that we have done at County Governance Watch, about 13 counties have really done very well, and they've surpassed the 100% point in terms of raising their own revenues. But then we must ask ourselves, what is it that they are doing that other counties need to do, and what is it that the national government also needs to do? And part of this is of course in still claiming certain functions, for example, health, housing, water, agriculture, a number of them that are still held by the national government, so that we push those counties to those functions to counties and then build their capacity. But then, even as we talk about on-source revenue, Noah, there is also the requisite responsibility of the county assemblies also to support devolution by ensuring that they pass effective legislations that support the executive arm of governments now to levy taxes on those streams, because there are lots of lapses that maybe our listeners might not understand, and also the time that we have, but therefore it calls for interagency, intergovernmental collaboration to ensure that all hands are on deck to make devolution work.
Beautiful. Wouldn't have put it better. Thank you very much, Kevin, for your input. Kevin Osido is the Executive Director, County Governance Watch, and he says that goodwill, first of all. Secondly, on-source revenue, but interagency collaboration to make sure that everything is working as it should. And finally, if a function was supposed to be devolved, please, national government, make sure that that is done effectively. With that said, that's where we put a full stop to today's show. Thank you very much for being with us over the past 30 minutes. I'm Noki Kimboy. Happy International Men's Day. Up next is Bill. Stay tuned.